What if I told you that in South Africa, a white family who built this nation's economy with their sweat and taxes is systemically locked out of housing, medical aid, and bursaries, while their qualified daughter watches a foreigner with a fake degree buy the teaching job she bled for, right in front of her eyes? Welcome to the story of Dani and Anna Marie. This is real life playing out in thousands of homes across the country, and the system is rigged so thoroughly against them that it doesn't even try to hide it anymore. Dani is an Afrikaner, self-employed, working 14-hour days because he knows the government department door is permanently shut to him. No RDP house, no free medical care, no bursaries, no grants, nothing. Because in South Africa, the social contract has been rewritten to exclude an entire race from dignity. But here's the cruel punchline. Dani is one of the few people in this country actually paying the bills. The 2025 budget revealed that just 7.9 million personal income taxpayers are funding a staggering 28 million social grant recipients, meaning the vast majority of taxpayers are a tiny minority carrying a nation on their backs. And within that shrinking pool, less than 1 million people pay over 60% of all personal income tax. Guess who dominates that elite club? People like Dani. The very people the state systematically denies every form of assistance and then punishes for being white. In a sane country, Dani's story would be a tragedy. In South Africa, it's just Tuesday. Take his daughter, Anna Marie. She dreamed of becoming a teacher, a noble, desperately needed profession. But when she applied for an NSFAS bursary to get her degree, she was turned down. Why? Because despite being a South African citizen who met every academic requirement, NSFAS funding is heavily skewed toward historically disadvantaged groups. So Dani had to scrape together hundreds of thousands of rand, money he didn't have, to put Anna Marie through university out of his own pocket. Sweat equity, not state aid. She graduated with flying colors, fully qualified, ready to serve her nation's children. So she applied for a government teaching post and got rejected. The official reason? She cannot speak any of the black African languages. But here's the insanity. South Africa has 11 official languages, and the law requires proficiency in only 2. Anna Marie is fluent in Afrikaans and English, her home language and first additional language. That fulfills the legal requirement. So what's the real problem? The real problem is that many schools, especially in rural areas, arbitrarily impose a local African language as a job requirement, effectively barring white Afrikaans-speaking applicants. But wait, it gets worse. While Anna Marie is being blocked by a language she doesn't speak, teachers from Cameroon, Ghana, India, Nigeria, and Zimbabwe, who cannot speak any South African language except maybe broken English, are getting hired in the very same posts. The Gauteng Education Department has officially banned foreign teachers, but other provinces like KZN, Northern Cape, and Limpopo still permit them, particularly in rural schools where vacancies exist. And in practice, the system is so corrupt that even those restrictions are ignored when enough cash changes hands. So let's pause right here. A white South African woman who grew up here, who is qualified, who speaks 2 official languages, who paid taxes indirectly through her father, cannot get a job because of a language barrier she cannot control. Meanwhile, a foreign national who cannot speak isiZulu or Sesotho walks into the same post, often for a bribe. Where is the logic? There is none, because this was never about logic, it was about exclusion. And this brings us to the filthy underbelly of South Africa's education system. Corruption is not just a problem, it is the operating system. In September 2025, Daily Maverick reported that the Jobs for Cash scandal, first exposed in 2016, is now worse than ever. New graduates desperate for employment are being openly solicited for payments to secure teaching positions, and schools in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape are hotspots for political interference and union cronyism. In May 2025, 2 women were arrested in separate incidents for using fake teaching qualifications, including one who had been working as a teacher since 2016, using a fraudulent matric certificate. and had earned over 1.2 million rands. Let that sink in. A woman who failed matric 4 times, 2003, 2004, 2005 and 2006, still managed to fraudulently obtain a B.Ed degree and teach for nearly a decade. And how did she get past the system? Collusion. The principal, the circuit manager, and the district office all signed off on her fraudulent documents, claiming they did not notice. Oh, you didn't notice a matric certificate that was entirely fake? In an entire chain of command? That is not incompetence. That is willful blindness. And it is rampant. The scale of this rot is almost incomprehensible. In October 2025, it was revealed that the Department of Basic Education had accumulated 1.8 billion rands in irregular expenditure, including ghost workers and fake housing claims. Parliament openly acknowledged that ghost workers are not administrative errors, but the result of deliberate and orchestrated systemic corruption requiring collusion between at least 3 internal officials. The Auditor General uncovered 6.4 million rands in fraudulent salary payments at the Mpumalanga Department of Education alone. Every single one of those rand belongs to taxpayers like Dani, siphoned into the pockets of criminals who are allowed to operate with impunity. And who is running this circus? Cadre deployment. The DA has repeatedly exposed how the ANC has weaponized public appointments to reward loyalists over qualified professionals. In July 2025, Higher Education Minister Nobule Nkabane was fired for lying to Parliament to cover up the fraudulent appointment of ANC-linked individuals to SETA boards. She was under investigation by the Hawks for fraud and statutory offences. But did the system stop? No. Her replacement, Buti Manamela, was immediately accused of continuing the same pattern, appointing ANC cadres, including former mayors and youth league leaders, to SETA boards, with some appointees linked to corruption and mismanagement. Manamela even went so far as to state in Parliament that being a member of the ANC should not disqualify anyone from appointment, effectively admitting that political affiliation is the primary criterion. His own statement was, "Political membership, including that of the ANC, neither disqualifies nor qualifies anyone," a phrasing so Orwellian it could be framed. So let's connect the dots for you. The people who decide who gets hired in education are often not educators themselves. They are political appointees, many of whom have fake qualifications or no qualifications at all. The district and circuit officials who sign off on job appointments are frequently unqualified, installed through cadre deployment, and protected by a patronage network that values loyalty over competence. So when a post becomes available, it is not advertised openly and fairly. It is reserved for a connected individual or sold to the highest bidder. And who buys these posts? Desperate foreign nationals who will pay any bribe to get a foot in the door, because even a corrupt job is better than no job. And who loses? Qualified South African teachers like Anna Marie, who cannot compete against a bribe. The sarcasm here writes itself. A foreign national with a questionable degree and a thick accent has a higher chance of getting a teaching post in this country than a white Afrikaner who passed everything legitimately. Because the system values a bribe over a degree. It values political connection over classroom competence. It values the right skin color over the right qualifications. And here is the final twist that will make your blood boil. Remember Dani? The man who pays taxes but gets nothing? The 2025 budget increased VAT, froze tax brackets and cut medical tax credits, squeezing even more out of that small pool of taxpayers. Social grant spending ballooned to 422.3 billion rands, with old age grants alone costing 117 billion rands. And the president himself celebrated that over 28 million people receive monthly grants. But for white South Africans, there is no safety net, no RDP housing, no free medical care, no bursaries, no grants. Just an ever-increasing tax burden and a government that actively works against them. So here is Dani, working himself to the bone, paying for a nation that despises him. Here is Anna Marie, qualified and ready to teach, watching less qualified people, some foreign, some unqualified, some outright fraudulent, take the jobs she should have. And the system? The system calls this transformation. It calls this redress. It calls this building a new South Africa. But let's call it what it really is. It is state-sponsored racism dressed up in progressive language. It is corruption so deep and so normalized that no one even blinks when a woman without matric earns 1.2 million rands as a teacher. It is a betrayal of every principle of fairness, merit, and justice that this country claims to stand for. And until South Africans are willing to name this evil for what it is, Dani and Anna Marie will keep losing. And the children in those classrooms, the real victims of this system, the ones being taught by unqualified, fraudulent, or bribed teachers, will never get the education they deserve. Dani and Anna Marie didn't ask for sympathy. They asked for a fair chance. And in South Africa today, that is the most radical demand of all. If you are one of the 7.9 million taxpayers carrying this broken system on your back, share this video. Not to spread anger, but to spread the truth. Because the only way this changes is if we refuse to look away. Subscribe, hit the bell, and stay vigilant. The fight for a fair South Africa isn't over. It hasn't even begun.